Welcome to the Kasteel.
We've just arrived at Castle Ammersoyen in the Netherlands. It's just near Zaltbommel. It's actually in Ammersoyen or Ammersoyen, depending on how you pronounce it.
It's an original medieval castle. It goes back to the 14th century, possibly earlier, possibly back to the 12th century. It's incredible.
It's an absolutely fantastic place again. I think every time I do my first piece to camera on Most Haunted Extra, my first words, this is a fantastic place. But it is.
It is beautiful. It's like a fairy tale castle. And as a little girl or any children would come here, they would be like, oh, wow.
It's a pleasure to shoot stuff here because it's such a picturesque and beautiful place.
It's the first of its kind for us. It's the first purpose-built medieval castle.
Everywhere here in Holland is really clean, and the castle is like really, really clean, and there's no dust or anything. They really are obviously very treasured and loved buildings here.
Inside, you can really hear what's happening upstairs, downstairs. It's quite a rattly old place really, wooden floors and what have you. So I'm sure we're going to encounter doing vigils, hearing people from upstairs, downstairs. It's just something we've got to take into account when we're doing our investigations, I guess.
Lots of different rooms going off to all different places, and surely we're going to get lost.
There's also a dungeon here, which I have to admit, it looks more like a storeroom to me. One of the ladies who were taking us around earlier actually said bad things happen to people in here, which was quite macabre. It kind of brought it home that if it's this tiny round room, no bigger than this room here, where allegedly people were thrown through a trapdoor in the ceiling and left to die, basically. So I mean, it's pretty nasty. So there's a lot of pain in this place, but I'd imagine over the years there has been an awful lot of happiness too.
We also have Kieran this week. We didn't have him last week. We didn't when we were filming in the last Kasteel. And in his capacity as a paranormal investigator and a psychologist, I think he comes up with a very balanced. He balances out the argument regarding paranormal activity. I think it's interesting and it's very important to have that, to have the balance. We have Derek's helpful advice, but also we have a rational scientific explanation which is given by Kieran. I'm glad that he's here this week.
Interesting place. There isn't really any focus of any particular phenomena in one room. Seems to be spread throughout the whole castle. I'm quite interested to be here in Holland anyway, just from a mediumistic point of view, to find out how messages would come through for the medium, because of course it would be in a different language. It would be in Dutch. So would the messages come through directly to the medium or through the spirit guide? And given that I think medium has no knowledge of Dutch, how will he interpret the messages? So there's that to consider. One of the most interesting aspects of this castle is the staircases.
The walls are 7 feet thick, and there are staircases in the walls that have been bricked up for years, and they've exposed them. They are the spookiest staircases you'll ever wish to meet. And of course there are also stories of ghosts, of figures, guess what, walking through the walls. But of course, are they walking through the walls? Because there are staircases in the walls. Perhaps perhaps these ghosts, these apparitions, are just doing what they always did, coming down the stairs and appearing out of the walls.
It's really weird. I don't feel like there's anything here at all. I don't think that we're going to be scared in any way for some strange reason. But then we'll see.
If we pick up anything tonight, maybe it could be apparitional stuff, maybe some auditory phenomena. But like I said, by far the most interesting aspect for me is what sort of messages come through for the medium in Dutch.
So this is going to be an interesting one, to say the least. The Dutch, for some reason, don't accept that there are ghosts.
But it's quite strange, in fact, that a culture that doesn't really accept the existence of ghosts is admitting that there are ghosts here. And what's intrigues me more is what is here that hasn't been admitted to, what has been seen that people do not admit that they've seen a ghost or they've heard a noise, or do they just accept that if they hear a noise or a door slams, it must be the wind, there's no other alternative, there's no possible way it could be paranormal because that isn't in their mind. I don't know. I'm really interested. I can't wait for the walk arounds. I certainly can't wait for the vigils when all the lights are off, because I think this place will be a very, very scary place. And we're really looking forward to it. I know I certainly am. Just done the lit walk around. It's been a very strange one.
Derek picked up on something that just intrigued me really.
Walking from the dungeon through the corridor, through, which is now, I guess, the dining room, on your way to the staircase, is Derek got the impression of washing machines. Just said that he just saw loads of washing machines around.
Can I tell you something now, because you're going to scoff at this? You really are. Do you mind me saying this? What have I just seen down there? I tell you, I've just seen, am I going silly or crazy? But I've just seen washing machines, and they're just stacked up. Washing machines here.
I have no idea.
Sounds terrible, doesn't it? Stupid. But there's washing, and I can hear the sound of the of washing machines. This here it's like a blinking washing machine factory. That is strange.
How on earth he got that one, I don't know.
I feel it must have been I don't know, recent times. Sorry, forgive me. Can you just put it in my throat? It's 1950 something.
Okay,
52,
well, we'll check that
53.
out. We'll check that out while we're here.
Now this place was actually a washing machine factory, apparently after the Second World War.
I know that Holland was seriously flattened in the war, and I suppose they were using any building space they could find in order to keep up manufacturing. And they thought, well, there's the castle, let's stick a washing machine factory in it.
They built a lot of washing machines here.
In the castle.
Here, yes.
We'll find that now.
Yeah.
But can I say that is not, there's not a spirit person connected to those conditions that's active here.
Okay.
There's just the residual energy.
This, I think, is unprecedented in terms of mediumistic communication, because mediumship is based on clairaudience, so hearing messages, clairvoyance, seeing spirits or seeing people that they communicate with, and to some extent clairsentience, just sensing that there are spirits around. For Derek to get the actual images of washing machines, which are inanimate, is highly unusual. I have never heard of a case where inanimate images come through unless they're being held by a spirit. So very strange.
So that's kind of made everyone step back a little bit.
I couldn't believe my eyes when I looked and I saw all these hundreds of washing machines.
Oh, that's the weirdest thing you've ever said. Come on then.
Okay.
A strange one to note. I mean, obviously he called it residual energy that's in the walls, but I would have thought that if energy is in fact absorbed by the structure of a building, the sort of atmosphere of what happened in the past lingers within structures like this. I would have just thought that the things that happened in this building, there'd be more profound energies in the walls than a washing machine factory, unless there was some terrible disaster. There was no mention of that. It just seemed an odd thing to note. I mean, with fair dues, Derek did say he thought it was strange that he picked up on it, and but I don't know. It's just a funny thing to come up with.
Unusual as it is, it doesn't make the place feel any more haunted, knowing that there were lots of washing machines here.
The lit walk-around had revealed one of the strange uses that the castle had been put to in years gone by. But join us after the break when a dark revelation during the night walk gets us all excited about the rest of the investigation.
She tied his hands and his ankles, and then she poked the puncture wounds in his neck and his chest.
He's come up with some damn good stuff. I'm impressed.
Welcome back to Most Haunted Extra. Kasteel Ammersoyen had begun to unravel a peculiar past, and the night walk's macabre revelation was soon to get us all excited about a potentially productive investigation.
We've just finished the night vision walk around with Yvette, Kieran and Derek.
As ever, I think those walkabouts always give a little bit more atmosphere and feel a bit more intense than the lit walkabouts.
Went into the office, or what is now the office, came up with a lot of information about a priest, came up with a name and the circumstance of his death, which was poisoned by the head of an order that existed here. Are you getting anybody?
I've got his energy with me here, at the back of me, and he took me unawares then by
Is he very strong?
He's not very strong. I feel this is his first attempt of trying to come in, and he's just testing the water, so to speak. My hands feel as if they are tied, so he's bringing back that memory of his wrist being tied. She poisoned him, but it didn't seem to take effect. She tied his hands and his ankles, and then she pumped the puncture wounds in his neck and his chest. He's behind the wall. Oh, he's behind the wall.
On further questioning, he wasn't able to provide the name of the lady that murdered him or the name of the order. However, he did give a date, around 1873, 1876.
The remains of his body are to be found in an area just off the hall. It's a small cupboard whereby there's a metre gap which runs along the wall, just behind the wall, and you can sort of squeeze in there, and you can see the remains of the arches of a chapel which once stood there.
in there? His body is buried behind there.
I feel it is, yes. Absolutely. He was dragged, he was brought here into this area, and only when she knew that his life flow had gone from him, that she had the surety that she could cover him up. He was given time by the Catholic Church to organise and get the mother to link and do things and then leave to go on his way. And whilst he was here, he did these things.
It's a great piece of information, but something that can't really be verified, at least not physically, by digging behind there, because I doubt the owners of the castle would want to do that. And also, I don't know if there's any sort of equipment that could be used, ultrasound equipment to see what's behind there. Maybe that's a possibility, although with a limited budget it's quite a tough thing to do. So, unfortunately, it's not sort of evidence we can check up on.
It seems to me that the wall he was touching was essentially an outside wall, so it wasn't sort of in between two rooms or anything. And looking at the thickness of the window and the alcove and all the rest of it, I mean, I'm just thinking, well, that wall that he was touching couldn't have been more than a couple of feet thick. And I can't see how there would be any room really to keep the remains in there. It didn't seem to make sense.
Quite a few of us went outside and had a look at the depth of the wall, and it just seems too small for anybody to put a body in there. It just doesn't seem right. It didn't fit right. But then, who knows?
Vigil's next. See what happens.
I've just done the first vigil of the night, and I was with Kieran, Tom, Yvette and myself, and we went up into the room that's above the dungeon.
For me, frankly, I think the best that we got out of it was an interesting conversation.
Most places that we go to, we only get scared and apprehensive in typically scary places like cold, dark, scary places where supposedly people have been murdered and things. Well, here we're sitting in one room in a castle where supposedly, the apparitions and the presences have been seen and felt throughout the whole place. So really, why should this be any different? Why should we not all of a sudden hear a moan or something happening here, or one of the chandelier lights move on its own? It could.
I mean, I think you could sit in a place like this just because it is a strange place to be. It's not like home. And you can imagine ghosts walking around in a film sort of way. And you can start thinking, God, it is quite spooky actually. In other words, but these are all imagination. This is all sort of, you've created these feelings yourself. And unless you've got any solid evidence to suggest that the ghosts are bad for you or dangerous to you, you shouldn't be afraid anyway.
If we stood here with a table in front of us and we started saying, can you give us a sign, make the table move? What's the difference between that happening and say, for instance, we say, right, if you can hear me, if there's a spirit that can hear my voice now, can you please try and open the door or rattle the door handle? But going off that, when we went to Castle Leslie, we asked a question where, is this something we need to do to communicate with spirits, which is a hands-on, isn't it? So it's almost a case of, well, let's all go stand by the door and put our hands on the door and say, right, can you move the door? Theoretically, that door should move then, shouldn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Theoretically, if it does work with a table, then, by that rationale, it should also work with the door.
It's almost like in order to think there is something here, you've got to be given something to make you think that. Whether it's a moving object or a sound or a door that you've asked to be moved and it moves, or an atmosphere. And really the atmosphere is the thing that you create yourself. It's like, but if you've got some harder evidence, like something moving when you ask it to move, then you would be sure that there was something there. Maybe the conclusion is you don't know if there is anything here until you get something that really convinces you.
Lots of people have tried for weeks, for months, for years to try and get phenomena investigating certain places. Sometimes they just don't get it.
Probably more here than anywhere else. I actually feel I could wander quite happily on my own in any room, anywhere.
But don't you think that's attributed to a lot of the lighting here?
No, it's pitch black up there. There's no lighting at all upstairs.
You just feel this castle is dead.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Excuse the pun, but that the castle is dead. That there's just no activity.
Yeah, exactly. I just feel that there's not. I know there's a lot being seen, but most of the places we've been to, there's always been some sort of response, whether it be from in your mind, or whether it be floorboards creaking, or whether it actually be paranormal. There's always been some sort of response, but here there's just, it is actually almost as dead as dead can be.
Yeah.
It's deader than a dead thing.
Well, that's the end of the night. I'm absolutely shattered, and so is everyone else. I didn't realise it would be quite as quiet and uneventful as it has been.
What a disappointment.
It's strange. It's very strange. Nothing's happened.
A total and utter disappointment.
You come to a place like this, it's got so much history, hundreds and hundreds of years. There's obviously people born, worked here, died here, over many, many, many years, and you think, there must be something here. Where are they?
I don't believe that this place is haunted.
It just feels very calm, very calm indeed.
You can't win them all, can you?
And I think we've just got to accept that, we're not going to be everywhere, and we're not going to want to come out and play whenever we want them to.
So, a real disappointment. I'm really a bit fed up about it, really, because I wanted to sort of finish Holland on a bang, but no such luck.
I'm not so downhearted, I think, as generally the group are, because when you do investigations like this, you have to be aware of the possibility that not a lot of things happen. And we already know that culturally, within Holland, there is less of an association with ghostly phenomena, and maybe in some way that suppresses the phenomena occurring, but tally that with the general feeling of the group that the castle is not so atmospheric. We didn't really get a lot of phenomena. It's nothing to be disheartened about. It happens.
It's kind of like people who fish for marlin or some exotic fish. You know them in the sea, but you don't get them every time. If they're listening, maybe they'll come out next time. So thanks for watching, and see you next time on Most Haunted Extra. Take care.
We went down there with one of the guides, and she said to us, bad things happen down here. And I would imagine that's because bad things used to happen down there.
So, Kieran, how do you feel about this one?
I'm sorry.
So, Kieran, how do you think we're going to do tonight?
This castle.
What I'd now like to focus on is my impression of a Dutch duck. Quite distinctly different to the English duck, I'm sure you'll appreciate. An English duck sounds like this.